Part 43. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 439. A flash of blue light suddenly flashed in the silent void of the universe, and a white and gold sacred slender battleship shuttled out of the dark starry sky of the universe. After a moment of pause, the battleship once again turned into a stream of blue light and quickly flew towards the star system ahead. Soon after, it merged with another sky sword anchored outside the asteroid belt. As the two battleships about 100 meters away gradually approached, dozens of figures flew out from the battleships and gathered together in the universe. 11 Luo, I have been waiting for you for a long time, and you are finally here. Yinga came forward with a smile on her face, and at the same time stretched out her palm to connect with Ziluo's raised left palm. I heard Sister Ming say that you were in danger here and needed support, so I rushed over immediately without stopping. The two women flew side by side, behind them were 50 angel warriors and two sky sword assault ships that had gathered together. After Yinga and Ziluo chatted for a few words and expressed their longing for not seeing each other for a long time, they quickly got to the point. You said the enemies are hiding in the asteroid belt ahead? Then why don't you use Tianjian's naval guns to force them out? I also want to do this, but our scientific research and investigation team disappeared in this area a month ago. It is very likely that it fell into the hands of those people. If I fire rashly, I am afraid that they will be accidentally injured. Hearing this, Ziluo also felt that what Yinga said was reasonable. After stroking his fingers and thinking for a moment, an idea flashed through him. I thought of a good way to force them to leave the asteroid belt. In the middle of the asteroid belt, inside a large asteroid of tens of meters that looked normal from the outside, in a prison with three sides made of special metal, several angels with black metal shackles on their hands and feet were sitting against the wall. Sister Lear, do you think they will kill us? A female angel whispered, her voice a little trembling. As the highest-ranking person here, Carrier could only reply comfortingly. Don't worry, our angel civilization is very powerful, they don't dare to kill us. As soon as we die, the equipment we carry will send the information here to the Merlot Heavenly Court, and none of them will be able to escape by then. Carol stretched out her arms to hug the female angel who had just spoken, and patted her back gently to give her a sense of security. The several angels in a prison separated from them did not receive such good treatment as Carol and the others. As combat-type angels, they were firmly restricted in a restraint device and could not move. At the same time, Kral was looking at a triangular metal column fixed in mid-air in a room. How's the scan going? Is there any progress in deciphering? Facing Kral's question, the soldier who was operating a projection light screen said in amazement. I'm sorry, Captain, but I cannot describe the magic of angel technology. At present, I can only analyze that the interior of this metal pillar contains extremely powerful energy, and these mysterious symbols on the surface are a very special encoding. As for the cracking work, please forgive me for my incompetence. It is estimated that only the geniuses of the R/U0026D Bureau in the entire Thunderblade Star can crack it. Kral sighed and left here after hearing this. As soon as he returned to his room, a man in black armor knocked on the door and walked in. Captain, can I come in? Kral looked up and saw that it was his deputy, and nodded to invite him in. Captain, I don't understand why we still keep those angels. In the previous battle, more than 10 team members died at the hands of those angels. Some team members are now filled with hatred for the angels, and they have expressed their dissatisfaction with your order. Facing the agitated deputy, Kral quickly spoke out to comfort him. Calm down, there is a reason why I kept them. First of all, we have no intention of being hostile to the angelic civilization. We are here for a purpose, and catching them was an accident. And didn't the angel researcher named Carol say before that if she died, the angels would definitely investigate the matter thoroughly, instead of just sending out a small team to investigate the matter like now? Just when Kral was discussing with his deputy whether to deal with the angel captives, a sudden shock came. A few seconds later, a communication was picked up, and opposite was the face of the team member responsible for detection in the base. "Captain, what's wrong? I don't know when the angel reinforcements came. Now they are bombing the asteroid with battleships, and they plan to bring the battleships in." Several blazing white beams shot out from the hidden muzzles of the two sky swords, easily cutting through the surrounding asteroids like light knives. 15 angel warriors were cruising around to prevent enemies from lurking near the battleship. Yinga looked at the huge noise caused by Tianjian and said to Ziluo beside him, "Is this useful? If it were me, I would never come out. Don't worry, this trick works every time I hit the triangle. Now they are like fish hiding in the water. If I throw a few bombs in, they will definitely be blown out." The fact was just as Ziluo thought. After knowing that the angels had come to reinforce and attack with such a big fanfare, Kral led the team members who could fight in the base and planned to sneak into the vicinity of the angels to see what their purpose was. Several small 3-meter doors were opened in several areas of the asteroid that Kral used as a base, and a dozen armored warriors flew out. They quickly left here, propelled by the jet nozzles of the square backpack behind them. But what these soldiers who left in a hurry didn't see was that the scenery nearby fluctuated slightly. "Oh! The invaders' base has been discovered. Well, I understand. You hide nearby and continue to observe." Ziluo hung up the communication and said excitedly to Yinga beside him. "Unexpectedly, the angels I spread discovered the base of the invaders, but I just don't know if they have other bases." When Yinga heard this, she immediately thought of the missing scientific research angel investigation team, and immediately said, "I want to attack their base first to see if they have the missing research angel. What do you think?" Ziluo also felt it was reasonable and said, "Okay, let's divide our troops into 2 groups. Yinga, you lead some angels to attack their base, and I will welcome our enemies here." Watching the excitement on Ziluo's face, Yinga nodded helplessly, flapped her wings and went to dispatch the angels. Even after 1,000 years, Ziluo is still the same Ziluo, liking and enjoying the excitement brought by fighting. Compared to Ziluo, who was excited, Yinga had some expectations for this operation. Just as the angel warriors led by Yinga and Ziluo were battling with the team led by Kral, on the other side of the star system, several small and medium-sized warships were already sailing away from here, sailing in the direction outside the star system. Go. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 440. The asteroids blocking the way were turned into dust in the universe under the bombardment of the Sky Sword. Relying on the supplement of light energy from the stars in the galaxy, the Sky Sword battleship did not have to worry about energy supply. After Yinga left, Ziluo asked the angel warriors guarding the battleship to expand the search area, hoping to find the spectators lurking around. The angels led by Yinga on the other side quickly arrived at the target location with detailed coordinate positioning, and completed the rendezvous with the angel warriors lurking there. And immediately launched an attack on the enemy base that looked like an asteroid. This shocked Kral, who received the news, and secretly prepared to return reinforcements after saying something bad. With a flash of red arc light, an asteroid nearly 10 meters separated from the middle and flew to both sides, revealing several figures wearing black armor hiding behind. The corners of Ziluo's lips slightly raised, and he whispered to himself, "I found you. Let's have a good fight with this angel." After saying this, Ziluo flapped his wings, raised the flaming sword in his hand, and pounced on an enemy. "Captain, we were discovered by an angel. What should we do next?" He raised the firearm in his hand and pointed it at the approaching angel, pulling the trigger while retreating, and at the same time contacted Klar to report his situation. But as time passed by, the elite warrior from Thunderblade Star became more and more nervous, because no matter how he aimed, he could not hit the charging angel. The other two companions around him had already adjusted the firing rate of the particle guns in their hands to the maximum, but it was still useless. Relying on his keen intuition and instantaneous reaction ability, and with the assistance of computing power, Ziluo made various flexible changes in direction during the charge and passed through the dense barrage fired by the enemy. As the harsh sound of metal being cut reached his ears, the flaming sword in Ziluo's hand had already cut across the waist of an enemy. What the hell kind of speed is this? There's no way you can dodge it? Along with this sentence in the communication, there was a scream, and then it became silent. Kral knew without guessing that his team members were definitely in danger. Just as Kral was hesitating whether to retreat or to attack, a spear-like ray came from another direction, and then the fierce fire swallowed up the surrounding area of hundreds of meters. After Ziluo finished dealing with the three enemies she caught, she did not take action again because she was not very satisfied with the strength of the enemies this time. However, Ziluo called an angel who was proficient in dark information, invaded a relatively complete armor she deliberately left behind, obtained the communication channel of Kral and the others, and located the location of Kral and the others through the signal frequency. What happened after that was very simple. The asteroid that Kral and the others used as a hiding place could not withstand the precise strikes of the Sky Sword battleship. A few rounds of gunfire caused Kral's troops to suffer heavy losses. On the other side, Yinga's attack on the enemy base went smoothly, without any resistance at all, and she also successfully rescued 8 imprisoned angels, including 3 scientific research angels and a team of escort angels. This is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that Yinga found some information at the base that the other party had no time to destroy, plus the oral information provided by the scientific research angel carrier. It was concluded that the other party's goal was to capture the original sample of the chaos virus located in this star system, and according to the remaining data, the other party should have succeeded. This news caused Ziluo, who was chasing Kral, to stop his pursuit, because according to Yinga's analysis, these enemies were obviously abandoned children thrown by the other party to attract their attention. After taking a look at the detection image sent by Tianjian, Ziluo issued an order to stop the pursuit through the communication in displeasure. And Kral, who had only a few subordinates under his command, was lucky to escape and saved his life. After collecting the returned Yinga and his group of angels, the 2 Sky Swords exited the asteroid belt and began to cruise around the galaxy in an attempt to discover something. Unfortunately, the Sky Swords were not Sky Blades and had powerful detection capabilities. System. In the end, the news was reported layer by layer, and was finally delivered to Binghua by Jingnan. After reading the transmitted information, Binghua confirmed his guess. As expected, external forces were involved in the disappearance of the scientific research angel. But for those guys who are peeking at the power of chaos virus, Binghua can only wish them good luck in his heart, because this thing is not as simple as it seems on the surface. As the conflict intensified and interests continued to conflict, De Kong finally failed to extinguish the burning flames of war, and the war within Kamigawa broke out. The Thunder Blade stars fought against the Kamigawa Tiandeo stars and the Gulansi people alone. The high-end military forces belonging to both sides started a fierce conflict, and the subordinate civilizations and their respective younger brothers below could not escape the incident and became a mess. Once a comrade in arms, now an enemy, nothing could be more ironic to Space, who is the leader of Kamigawa, than this fact. The so-called Kamigawa Pan-Civilization Alliance has ceased to exist in name only from this moment on, and the dream of rebuilding Kamigawa in space has also been shattered. Finally, several years after the war broke out, Space, who was exhausted physically and mentally, announced to the entire known universe that the new Kamigawa civilization had been disbanded. Kamigawa Academy would serve as a neutral force, traveling throughout the known universe and exploring the truth of the universe. As soon as this news came out, all prominent civilizations in the known universe were in an uproar because the news was so sudden, even Binghua and Kesha, who had already expected it. The once glorious Kamigawa civilization has disappeared like this. It is really a somewhat illusory thing. Binghua side, and Jingnan on the side had the same attitude. For the sparsely populated angel civilization, the Shenhe civilization used to be a behemoth, but now this behemoth suddenly fell down, which would make life miserable. The actual feeling is normal. The disintegration of New Kamigawa will not have much impact on the three major civilizations currently fighting in the New Kamigawa galaxy, because the three have already been semi-independent. Faced with the siege of two major civilizations of the same level, the Thunderblade stars could only struggle to support themselves, while the Kamigawa Tiandeo and Gulansi people on the dominant side were not in a hurry. This is easy to understand. The strength of the Thunder Star territory is not weak. If you want to destroy it, you must pay a high price. And the current situation is that neither Kamigawa Tiandeo nor the Gulansi people are willing to bleed. But what Kamigawa Tiandeo and the Gulansi people didn't know was that it was their delay that prevented them from preventing the horrific changes that were about to happen in the Thunder Star territory. In the Thunder Star territory, in the newly established Arteist Research Institute, dozens of Thunderblade aliens wearing white research uniforms were watching the big screen. What was displayed on the screen was a tall figure with an extremely strong body and finely carved muscles. But these are not the reasons why he can become the protagonist on the screen. What really makes him the protagonist is the extremely eye-catching surgical wounds on his body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 441. Start installing the lining skeleton. A researcher with a projection screen in front of him spoke out, then stretched out his finger to press the confirmation button on the projection. The tall figure on the screen seemed to have received some instructions at the next moment. He stood up expressionlessly and walked forward a few steps, arriving on a metal platform a finger above the ground. The next moment, the platform rose upwards, sending the tall figure standing on it into a room surrounded by complex mechanical cranes. As the words "dressing start" appeared on the screen, the surrounding cranes moved. They held up various silver-gray metal parts to fix the tall figure in the middle, and poked out from the flesh and blood at various parts of the body. The metal grooves fit together tightly. Then there are the complex circuits and the implanted central nervous system synchronous connection equipment, all of which fit tightly with the body surface of the figure in the middle, as if growing out of the body. The suspended boom that completed the above operations began to retract rapidly, and then the robotic arm holding heavy components rose again from around the metal platform. What happened next was obvious. After all the steps were completed, this Thunderblade star, who was over 1.8 meters tall, turned into a small metal giant over 2 meters tall. After finishing dressing, with only his face exposed, the soldier tried to move his body tightly wrapped in armor, but did not feel any obstruction, as if he was controlling his body. Looking at the armored warrior moving his fingers on the screen, a researcher began to explain. Everyone from the Thunderblade star, please take a look. This is the latest scientific research result of our Asteroots Research Institute. They are heroes who have made great achievements on the battlefield, but their physical mutilations have seriously degraded their combat effectiveness. Even if their limbs are regenerated, they cannot return to the level of complete victory. In order to meet the requirements of heroes like me to continue to contribute to the Thunderblade civilization, our Artast Research Institute took a huge risk to launch a project known as the Hunters. Under the auspices of Project Director Dr. Tast, we used the latest technology to implant alloy skeletons and several special artificial organs into these heroes. Finally, he used the neural link system to link his brain and the armor's operating system to operate synchronously. As you can see, this armor is his new body. They will be more powerful and faster than before. They are super soldiers comparable to super soldiers. Then the screen began to play various data of this heavily armored warrior, including combat videos. During this period, people present occasionally exclaimed, because this special armored warrior from the Artast Research Institute was several times more powerful than the regular soldiers of the Thunderblade civilization, and could even fight against the Thunderblade in hand-to-hand combat. The first generation of super soldiers. If it is equipped with special weapons and equipment, it can even compete with the second generation super soldiers. This made the Thunderblade civilization military personnel present feel very excited, because the current war situation was not optimistic for them, and these military leaders desperately needed a powerful force to reverse the situation. What happened after that was obvious. The Artast Research Institute became famous for a while, and it obtained the military's resource tilt by relying on the technology of transforming soldiers. Not long after the results were displayed inside Thunderblade, these special armored warriors began to appear in the wars of the three major civilizations in the new Kamigawa galaxy. They were not afraid of death or pain, and would pull apart even if they were broken in two. Die together with your opponent. The Kamigawa Tiendeo star and the Gulansi star, which had always been going smoothly, were stunned by the sudden heavy punch from the Thunder Galaxy because they were unprepared and lost several extremely important star systems on the front line. The failure at the grassroots level quickly affected the battle situation at the high-end level. The Kamigawa Tiendeo people and the Gulansi people had to shrink their defense lines and start to concentrate their efforts. However, the next actions of the Thunder Star territory surprised many civilizations, because they actually let the fleet bypass the front-line battle zone and attack the hinterland of the Gulans, causing a lot of casualties. The original tacit understanding between the three major civilizations was broken first by the Thunder Star territory. The Gulans people who were attacked in the hinterland were extremely angry and threatened to make the Thunder Blade stars pay a heavy price. Turning off the large projection screen in the void, Kesha leaned against the edge of the steaming pool, her long blonde hair spread out in the water following the graceful curves of her chest. It seems that the war fanatics on Thunderblade Star can no longer sit still and have completely disregarded the friendship they had in fighting side by side. It seems that this war will not end until a final winner is decided. Faced with Kesha's remarks, Binghua did not reply immediately. Instead, he closed his eyes and relied on his powerful computing power to adjust the density of his body, allowing his body to float in the water with buoyancy. It was only then that he sighed. Said, "To be honest, this war should not have broken out. The known universe is so big, why should we fight to the death for a tiny amount of resources? I just hope that the war in the new Kamigawa galaxy will not spread to the Angel Nebula." Kesha let out a heavy breath, relaxed and leaned completely on the stone platform behind her, raised her head slightly and looked at the sky and whispered softly. War is something that no civilization can avoid. Unless you are so powerful that others cannot resist, war will come sooner or later. Hearing this, Binghua opened her eyes, swam in the direction of Kesha, and stayed beside her, with the same body relaxing and leaning on the stone platform. Then make the angel civilization so powerful that no one dares to offend it. The angel civilization can no longer withstand the ravages of several wars. Kesha chuckled when she heard this, and said in agreement, "You are right, our population can no longer withstand the devastation of the war. However, the angel civilization will definitely stand at the top of the universe in the future. One day, I will let the justice of angels cover the entire known universe, so that all civilizations can usher in a peaceful world without war and bullying. And all sources of turmoil will have nowhere to hide under the judgment of angels." Binghua suddenly burst into laughter. "Sister Kesha, I suddenly discovered today that you are quite good at middle school." Kesha also smiled and said nonchalantly, "The second grade is the second grade, who doesn't have the second grade? However, I am serious about letting angels stand at the top of the universe and covering the entire known universe with the order of justice. You can also understand that this is my ambition as the king of angels." At the end of the sentence, Kesha's expression became a little more serious, and it was obvious that she was not joking. After Binghua stared at Kesha's side face for a while, he looked away, closed his eyes and spoke with a weak smile. Sister Kesha, if you don't mind my blunt sword, you can use me as much as you want for the future of Angel. Of course, I won't be polite, because aren't you my holy left wing? Said Kesha, and Binghua chuckled at the same time. A few days have passed since the chat with Kesha in the pool. Hyuka no longer tinkered with his weapons in his residence, and began to shift his attention to the war in New Kamigawa. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 442. The war that took place in the New Kamigawa galaxy attracted the attention of most civilizations in the known universe, especially after the latest scientific research results of the Thunder Blade civilization, the emerging technology that can fight against super soldiers, appeared. But as the war lasted longer, anyone with a discerning eye could see that the Thunder Blade civilization was a little weak, and the intensity of the offensive became weaker and weaker. On the contrary, the Kamigawa Tiendao Star and the Gulansi people seemed to have a tacit understanding and opened up new battlefields from the front and rear directions of the Thunder Star territory, resulting in the Thunder Blade Star people having to fight on 3 fronts. Even with the latest modified warrior troops put into the battlefield, giving the Thunder Blade Stars an advantage in hand-to-hand combat, the fleet battles taking place in the universe continue to suffer failures. On the other side, Binghua, who was far away in the Angel Nebula Merlot heaven, planned the future development direction of the Angel Legion, and then began to read the battle reports coming from the New Kamigawa galaxy. Binghua was also curious about the warrior transformation technology developed by the Thunder Blade civilization, because the Thunder Blade Stars obtained samples of the Chaos virus from the Angel Nebula. Binghua originally thought that the Thunder Blade Stars would kill him, so he didn't care, but now it seems that is not the case. Kesha once said before that if you want the Angel civilization to stand at the top of the universe, you must first not fall behind others in some aspect. Thinking of this, Binghua called Jingnan into the room and asked her to go to Apocalypse King Liangbing to ask the investigating angels to increase their attention and intelligence collection on the Thunder Blade Stars. If anything happens there, remember to notify them in advance. In the residence of King Tiankai, Liangbing hummed an unknown tune and kept sliding his fingers on the void projection in front of him. Judging from his expression, he seemed to be in a good mood. Queen. Liangbing didn't even look back and said directly, "Come in, Shaolin." Queen, the auxiliary officer of the Holy Left Wing has just sent news, asking us to increase the intelligence collection on the Thunder Blade Stars. It seems that His Excellency Binghua is also very interested in their transformed warriors. Liangbing looked at the various data displayed on the projection, nodded with satisfaction, then turned around and walked past the angel Shaolin who was standing there to the sofa placed in one part of the room, turned around and sat on it. "Come on, stop standing there and stare. Sit down and talk." Shaolin Yiyan sat on the sofa to the left of Liangbing, and brought out some drinks and placed them on the small table nearby. "It's not surprising. I know that Binghua guy very well. Any novel technology can arouse her interest, let alone this kind of technology that can fight against super soldiers to a certain extent." Liangbing leaned on the back of the sofa, raised his left leg and put it on his right leg, and crossed his legs skillfully. "However, unlike her, I am interested in how those Thunder Blade people can eliminate the negative impact of the Chaos virus on the host. You must know that I have been studying this thing for hundreds of years, but I have not found an effective method. The Thunder Blade man has actually done it in such a short period of time. To be honest, I want to go there myself." After Liangbing finished speaking, he picked up the drink placed on the table and took a sip. After savoring it carefully, he said again, "But this is not a bad thing. With her help, it will be much easier to obtain this technology." Shaoyan's slightly anxious expression calmed down after hearing this, and Liangbing couldn't help but vomit after seeing this. "I said, Shaolin, why are you so nervous? Binghua is not my enemy, and what we are doing is not something shameful. Shalan just smiled a little awkwardly when he heard this, but Liang Bing obviously just said it casually and changed the subject the next second. By the way, are there any recent breakthroughs in the research on supergenes that can match spatial algorithms? When Shalan heard this, her expression became serious. Queen, the space algorithm you wrote has 2 strict requirements on supergenes. We have tried many methods, but we can't solve the problem of supergene recombination after passing through the micro-wormhole. Liang Bing was a little disappointed when she heard this, but it was expected. Although she majored in space technology, it did not mean she knew nothing about supergene technology. Angel's supergene has a great advantage, that is, it is extremely stable. The subsequent series of optimizations are like building a building on a solid foundation, but Liangbing's space algorithm demolishes this foundation in a very short time. And the tall buildings attached to it, which will be rebuilt later. The time difference is a big problem. Liangbing's requirement is within milliseconds, but the supergene entities provided by space genetic engineering are still within minutes. This time is enough for local battlefield support, but it cannot be used in individual battles. If an angel really uses the micro-wormhole jumping technology with such a long lead time in battle, he will definitely be beaten by his opponent. But Queen, our research on the chaos virus has made some progress. We use a separation technology to eliminate the extreme variability of the chaos virus and retain its strong infectivity, but it has a side effect, which is that it will alienate the host cells. To put it bluntly, it will become ugly. After hearing Shalan's words, Liang Bing immediately lost interest in it. She was not a careerist, so why would she want such a thing? Forget it, stop researching this thing immediately, and from now on, focus all your scientific research efforts on solving the problem of space-time gene adaptability. Shalan said that he would do it immediately after returning, and then left after reporting some more important information to Liang Bing. The scope of the war in the new Kamigawa galaxy gradually began to expand, but the Angel Nebula and its surroundings, which were a large galaxy away, were not affected at all, because the Order of Justice gave many middle and low-level civilizations a sense of confidence. As for the origin of this confidence, it is the due diligence and precious lives of the angel warriors. As the Queen of Angels, Kesha kept her promise, sent warriors to maintain the safety of ordinary civilizations under the Order of Justice, and mediated many interstellar conflicts that were about to break out. Although some armed conflicts were unavoidable during the process, no civilization dared to try the shocking scene of the Skyblade pressure realm. This gives the angelic civilization an extremely high reputation in the hearts of those civilizations that have suffered from physical wars. Some civilizations even believe that the victory in physical wars is all due to the angelic civilization. As for the influence of the word Shenhe, it has gradually faded away from people's minds. The heart fades away. The war situation in the new Kamigawa galaxy has gradually become clear. The Thunder Star territory failed to make a comeback in the end. It was unable to defeat the four-handed force with two fists and was dragged down by the Kamigawa Tiandeo galaxy and the Gulans, who opened a two-line battlefield. Logistics. With the frequent failures in space wars, the size of Thunderblade civilization's space fleet has been showing a cliff-like decline. In the end, due to the wastage of the two parties, the production capacity could not keep up with the consumption, and was invaded by Kamigawa Tiandeo and Gulansi into the Thunder Star territory. The affiliated civilizations that were originally affiliated with the Thunderblade civilization saw that their boss was close to the end of the road, so they immediately changed their camps and joined the Kamigawa Tiandeo side. I originally wanted to update last night, but ended up falling asleep. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 443. A skyblade slowly approached the sky harbor outside the mellow heavenly court, and was fixed in the docking position by the force field bracket extending from the sky harbor docking position. Then a group of angels flew out from the skyblade and landed on the ground inside Tiangang. The leader was Angel Ran, who looked slightly tired. The angel warriors encountered by the group all said hello to Ran, and Ran nodded in response. Since the end of the physical war, Angel Ran was first responsible for the elimination of the remaining beast civilization in Red Star Ring, and then returned to Angel Nebula to lead a team to eliminate the star field infected by the Chaos virus. It was like a tireless war machine, but luckily Binghua still had a conscience for his old subordinate and called him back to the Merlot Heavenly Court to rest for a while. Angel Ran's mission was assigned by Binghua to Kesha's direct angel Elan. Since joining Binghua's command sequence, this high-ranking angel who has been playing soy sauce in the Merlot Heavenly Court for most of the time finally welcomes him. Here comes my first mission since taking office. Binghua received Ran, who rushed back in the palace of the Holy Left Wing. I've worked hard for you during this time. Now that I'm back this time, I'll take a good rest. Feeling that his queen was worried about him, Ran had a smile on his face and answered at the same time. Queen, it's not hard at all. If you have any tasks, please just give me your instructions. Seeing Ran's serious look, Binghua shook his head slightly, raised his hand to carry out a tea set, poured a cup for Ran, and pushed the cup gently, and the cup slid on the table to Ran on the other side. There are no outsiders here, so there is no need to be so serious. Ran Vinyan did not remain serious, and sat opposite Binghua at a long table. Queen, I wonder why you suddenly transferred me back to Marrow Angel this time? The borders of the Angel Nebula are not peaceful recently. Many civilizations are taking advantage of the civil strife in New Kamigawa to expand. I know this, but don't take it to heart. I have asked Elan to take over your position and patrol the borders of the nebula. Hearing Elan's name, the figure of a high-level blonde female angel immediately appeared in Ran's mind. It turns out it's her. If that's the case, there shouldn't be any problems at the border. Angel Elan's reputation in the entire Merlot Heaven is much higher than Chi Ran. Before the physical war, he served as the chief guard of Merlot Heaven. During the physical war, he commanded fleet operations as Kesha's deputy. His overall outlook and command skills were extremely good. This is why Binghua assigned Elan to take over the position. Okay, don't think about anything during this period of time, just take a good rest. Seeing that he couldn't get anything out of the question, Ran stopped asking and started talking to Binghua about leading the fleet to fight outside. As the Kamigawa Tiandeo stars and the Gulansi people advance step by step, the resistance of the Thunder Blade civilization also begins to increase. However, anyone with a discerning eye knows that this is just a fight between the Thunder Blade stars and a trapped beast. As long as the last line of defense of the Thunder Blade galaxy is defeated, victory will be within easy reach. But before that, the Kamigawa Tiandeo stars and the Gulans people formed an elite force together, intending to destroy the heavily guarded Attist Research Institute inside the Thunder Blade galaxy, and curb the growth of the Thunder Blade stars' transformed warriors. Several times, reducing the pressure on the frontal battlefield. However, this battle attracted the attention of many civilizations, and angels were no exception. As early as when the Kamigawa Tiandeo stars and the Gulans planned to attack the Attist Research Institute, Binghua dispatched an army composed of the purpose of the team composed of high-level angels is to take advantage of the chaos to obtain the Thunderblade Star's transformation warrior technology. Of course, the angel civilization is definitely not the only one with this purpose. According to the investigation of the high-level angel team sent there, they discovered several small warships in the nearby star field that hid their own information. The angel team responsible for carrying out this mission no longer wore the distinctive silver armor of the angel warriors, but silver-gray armor that covered the whole body with no gender visible. The weapon equipped is not a flaming sword, but a partial test weapon that cannot be produced, just like the weapon Yinga chose during the rescue mission. It is precisely because of this that Yinga was incorporated into this team and held the position of fire support. There are a total of 5 high-level angel warriors in this team. According to the regular special team configuration in Kamigawa's information, they are divided into 4 positions, namely fire support, assault guard, heavy defense, and long-range sniper. Among them, Yinga occupies the position of fire support, Ziluo is one of the 2 assault guards, and the remaining 2 angels are heavy defense and long-range sniper respectively. Before setting off, the 5 angels went through a simple running-in training, and they had a bit of cooperation, and they would not fight independently like before. The reason why it is so troublesome is that Binghua did it deliberately in order not to reveal the identity of the angel. Otherwise, the exposure of the matter will damage the high reputation of the righteous order in the universe. More than 10 days have passed since the elite troops of Kamigawa Tiandao and the Gulans attacked the Attist Research Institute. During this period, all the defenses around the research institute were violently torn down. The remaining Thunderblade aliens can only rely on the strong outer walls and complex internal structure of the research institute itself for their final resistance. And as the door of the research institute was destroyed, the angel who led the team knew that his team's opportunity had come. With their equipment in hand, the 5 angel warriors tried their best to contain the data information they spread outwards. At the same time, they activated their light and shadow deflection abilities to avoid the soldiers on both sides along the way, and entered the research institute like ghosts. In a remote corner of the research institute's internal area, 5 figures wearing silver-gray armor appeared from the void. "Captain, we have come in, what should we do next?" Yinga asked aloud, raising her left hand at the same time. The armor on the wrist opened slightly, revealing the square black muzzle inside. "Of course, rush in. Knock down everyone we see, so no one can stop us." Ziluo held a large war blade in his arms and spoke. As the captain of this team, the angel holding a large energy gun thought for a moment and was about to speak, when suddenly there was the sound of heavy footsteps hitting the floor. Bang, 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 as the sound became clearer and clearer, soon Yinga and his group of angels saw the owner of the footsteps. The appearance is simple, with only 2 thick masks with red lens-shaped eyes. Its body is wrapped in very thick armor, making its figure look a bit bloated. Judging from their height and appearance, they are obviously a team of reformed warriors from the Thunderblade civilization. It is estimated that Yinga and several angels asked the Institute's detection system to detect anomalies in this area during the discussion, so they sent a team here. The detective is coming. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 444. Sure enough, the next moment, the leader of the team of Thunderblade transformation warriors yelled "Intruder!" After that, a barrage of metal barrages covered Yinga and his group of 5 angels. Seeing countless black-gray metal projectiles spraying faint tail flames, the angel holding a shield beside Yinga violently pushed aside Ziluo and the other angels. An angel stood in front. The silver-gray shield in her hand, which was originally only 1 meter high, suddenly unfolded. The shield's surface nearly doubled in size. Mysterious symbols were exposed from the gaps in the shield. At the same time, a transparent force field spread around, blocking the surroundings. The female angel holding the shield is in front. Countless warheads spraying flames were blocked by the force field, and their speed became slower and slower. No matter how hard the flames at the tail pushed them, they could not move forward an inch. Yinga jumped up in a flash, aiming her left hand at the team of Thunderblade modified warriors on the opposite side. The side armor of her forearm flicked open, revealing a slender rectangular opening, and then the blue light exploded, shooting out a nearly 1 meter long beam. The slender droplet-shaped ray blasted a modified warrior away. Seeing that the enemy still had the ability to counterattack, the Thunderblade transformation warriors who had gathered together immediately dispersed. One of the Thunderblade warriors had an armor height that was about 1/3 higher than that of his surrounding companions. The shoulder armor piece suddenly flipped upward, revealing the inside. Dozens of black round heads neatly arranged. On the other side, Yinga, who was constantly firing with the particle gun on his forearm, saw this and only had time to shout over the communication. "It's an erosion missile, avoid it immediately." Weapons such as missiles were first equipped in the Kamigawa Marine Corps during the physical war. Angels and Kamigawa conducted coordinated operations, so there are also records of this weapon in the database. This kind of weapon is generally suitable for mid-range combat or performing fixed-point firebombing missions. It has the characteristics of automatically locking and tracking targets. The erosion missile is a weapon that emerged in the war between the Thunderblade civilization and the Gulans. This kind of warhead is loaded with special energy inside. The energy impact caused by the explosion can corrode everything around it, eroding the target like strong acid. Which is also the greatest threat to super soldiers among conventional weapons. At first, only the special forces of Gulans were equipped with it. However, after being captured by the Thunderblade civilization and launching a prototype of the technology, it flourished and created several special weapons based on this energy to arm its own standing army. Among them, erosion missiles are the most common thing, and they are the most commonly used combat weapon in close conflicts between the two super warriors. I saw blue flames flashing on the shoulders of the tall Thunderblade transformation warrior one after another. More than 20 small corrosive missiles with blue flames spraying from their tails drew irregular arcs in the air and rushed towards the angels on the other side. Them. The violent explosion echoed in the passage. Under the blue fire, the original metal passage wall was quickly eroded and melted, revealing the alloy frame behind it. The opened armor piece was closed again, and the tall Thunderblade transformation warrior nodded towards his companions around him. Two transformed warriors, whose entire bodies were wrapped in thick armor and who were over 2 meters tall, raised their muzzles and advanced slowly. Suddenly, in the blue flames surging ahead, a short figure less than 2 meters tall, with blue flames burning all over his body, rushed out with a broad war blade on his shoulder, and in the blink of an eye he jumped into a group of reformed warriors. The moment he landed, there was only a harsh sizzling sound, and the ground was rubbed with traces of sparks. Then this figure, who was much shorter than the tall transformed warriors around him, held the thick war blade on his shoulder in a ring, sweeping across the body. Just hearing the sound of several metal collisions, 4 tall reformed warriors fell upside down to the ground. Their abdomens and side-waist armor all showed signs of inward dents. Seeing this, the other reformed warriors around immediately turned their guns, and suddenly a red ray shot out, blasting the upper body of a reformed warrior without a trace. The figure who rushed into the enemy group before was Yinga's good sister, Ziluo, who liked to fight head-on. Her situation at this moment was extremely embarrassing. Although it looked like she was charging like a mad dog all day long, and she was so awesome that she killed 4 people with one sword, but the real situation was that she forgot to turn on the cutting mode of the war blade in her hand, and she couldn't kill any of them. The other Thunderblade transformation warriors also lived up to their reputation as the most elite force of the Thunderblade civilization, and immediately opened fire to suppress 11 Lugo who was charging at the front. Projectiles nearly 3 fingers wide hit the war blade that 11 Lugo temporarily used as a shield and exploded. The huge kinetic energy and impact made 11 Lugo very uncomfortable, fearing that the war blade in his hand would be knocked away by the enemy accidentally. However, Ziluo does not fight alone. Although several angels such as Yinga are generally not suitable for fighting in such a small space due to their armor and weapons, the basic combat effectiveness of high-level angels can still be maintained. Shoot! Strike forward! Accompanied by the deafening gunfire, there was also the shout of the Thunderblade transformation warrior captain on the communication. But in the next second, the leader of the Thunderblade transformation warriors who issued the order was blasted through the upper body by a burning red ray that came from behind 11 Lugo. At the same time, there was also a figure that flew out at a very fast speed. Another angel in the angel team equipped with melee equipment crossed Ziluo who was resisting the attack. Taking advantage of the opportunity, the Thunder Blade Transformation Warrior team was unable to receive correct guidance orders because the captain suffered heavy losses. Plunged in. Unlike 11 Luo, who chose a heavy melee weapon like a warblade, this angel chose a more flexible and lighter fixed knife. The reddish blade easily pierced through the unusually thick heavy armor of the modified warriors and penetrated their chests. The terrifying high heat turned the metal into a liquid like magma. The flesh and blood were blackened and carbonized, and bursts of white smoke came out from the wounds. But what made the angel frown was that the reformed warrior seemed to feel no pain. He raised his hand to hold the straight knife that had pierced his chest, and raised the gun in his other hand to pull the trigger. Amidst the huge gunshots, 20mm giant bullets flew out of the barrel, hit the armored chest of the angel, and then exploded like bombs, turning into fist-sized bullets. A ball of dazzling energy. The terrifying kinetic energy instantly pushed it back a certain distance. However, while being pushed back, this high-level angel with rich combat experience also subconsciously slashed the straight knife in his hand horizontally to enlarge the wound. Under the cutting of a straight knife with the bonus of thermal energy blade mode, the armor and flesh of the modified warrior were easily cut open like tofu, and by the way, there was also an arm that he had no time to retract. At this moment, Ziluo also broke away from the fire suppression of the Thunder Blade Transformation Warrior, and rushed forward with the war blade over 1 meter in length in her hand, without giving the Thunder Blade Transformation Warrior any chance to breathe. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 445. With a dull loud noise, a Thunder Blade transformed warrior was embedded in the metal wall of the passage. Before he could make another move, a war blade 2 palms wide had already penetrated his chest armor. Ziluo stretched out one leg and stepped on the corpse of the enemy in front of him. He pulled out the war blade and a stream of blood dripped to the ground, where it quickly condensed. 11 Luo, leave as soon as you have finished solving the problem. The Thunder Blade Stars will send follow-up support troops soon. Our mission is not to clear this place. Got it, come right now. Ziluo responded and turned around to leave without any nostalgia. However, what Ziluo and the other angels did not see was that some of the corpses of the Thunder Blade transformed warriors lying on the ground in the passage behind them moved slightly. Boom! Violent explosions sounded one after another, accompanied by fierce gunshots. Yinga and the other group of angels felt the movement, and their original forward movements stopped. Yinga signaled to the captain, and then his eyes glowed with an undetectable white light. The normally normal channel screen began to disappear quickly, replaced by various complex lines and data flows, as well as an unusually conspicuous data summary node everywhere. Dark information scanning has been started, data nodes have been found, the invasion has started, and the invasion has been completed. As a high-level angel warrior, Yinga's computing power is amazing, and he easily obtained the basic monitoring authority of this research institute. They quickly found the battle area between the Thunderblade Star Army, Kamigawa Tiandeo, and Gulans, and performed a simultaneous projection and playback in front of the angels. Hundreds of Thunderblade modified warriors fought fiercely with the Gulans on the other side behind the bunker set up in the main passage of the research institute. From time to time, Gulan soldiers who tried to break through the defense line were hit by bullets fired from the special firearms in the hands of the Thunder Blade modified warriors. Their hands and feet were either broken, or their upper bodies were lost. The Thunder Blade transformation warriors on the other side are not without casualties. The super warriors of the Gulans are all castrated versions of the Skybow God-making project. They have no other special abilities, except the extremely accurate shooting of energy bow arrows. Often, Thunder Blade transformed warriors would be shot through the armor by the blazing white energy arrows fired from Gulans, and their internal bodies would be damaged by the subsequent explosion of energy. Kamigawa Tiandeo's side was much rougher. Their soldiers wore full body armor that looked quite retro, holding large metal square shields engraved with special animal patterns, and withstood the firepower of the Thunder Blade transformed warriors. Move forward step by step. In addition to the heavy firepower carried by the big guys among the Thunder Blade transformation warriors, the firearms in the hands of ordinary transformation warriors often require 2 or more people to focus their fire to create a gap in the advancing Kamigawa Tiendeo troops. However, the Shinga Tiendeo Star's counter-attack method is very suitable to the Angel's taste, which is to use a special crossbow to shoot a metal arrow with extremely strong penetrating power. According to the images transmitted by the surveillance equipment, the destructive power of those triangular arrows has exceeded that of ordinary energy weapons. At the same time, this technology of laying energy transmission lines inside metal or weapons is similar to the Angel's energy circuit technology. Yinga then found a detailed map of the outskirts of the Artast Research Institute in the system. This was the limit of what Yinga could do at the moment. Because Yinga is not a professional in this field, and does not have Tianren's computer assistance, he cannot compete with the supercomputer that controls the entire base, and can only read some less important data. After planning a route that could bypass the battlefield area, several angels set off again. This time their target is the core area of the Research Institute, where they only need to deploy the special equipment obtained from the Holy Left-Wing Binghua to conduct data intrusion into the central computer of the Research Institute and then back up the technical data in it. As for why the data intrusion was not carried out directly outside to steal the data of the Artast Research Institute, it was because there was no warship with supercomputing power like Skyblade nearby as a support transfer platform. In the final analysis, the war between the Thunder Blade civilization and Gulans, and the Kamigawa Tiendeo stars can only be regarded as internal conflicts in Kamigawa. If the Heavenly Blade warship, the heavyweight combat unit of the Angel civilization, rashly sails to the new Kamigawa galaxy without justifiable reasons, it will be boycotted by all civilizations in the new Kamigawa galaxy. On the way forward, Ziluo suddenly asked curiously, before departure, the Queen said that if there is an accident during this mission, remember to use something like that. Yinga, I remember that thing was at your place, right? What is it? Can you take it out and let us take a look? Ziluo had been curious to see what the Queen was talking about before, but in order to ensure that there would be no accidents when sneaking into the Shenhe galaxy, Yinga was unexpectedly tight-lipped and would not take it out even if she was beaten to death. But now that they have arrived at the target location, and their whereabouts have been exposed to the eyes of the Thunder Blade defenders in the Research Institute, they no longer care about it. They nodded and turned their hands. A slender three-dimensional weapon about 1 meter long was revealed. The prismatic metal pillar was suspended above Yinga's palm. At the same time, Yinga also began to explain to his companions how to activate the device. This device was obtained by Yinga from a scientific research angel with a special style when he was rescuing the scientific research angel. According to her, it is a miniature simple stargate with enough energy stored inside to open it once. She also said that there will be a big surprise after opening it. Originally, after that operation, Yinga had planned to return the device, but before the mission was carried out, the Queen specifically mentioned this thing, so Yinga solved and set up the micro-wormhole in advance. The transport coordinates can be transported and used at any time outside. Although Artast Research Institute is called a research institute, it is actually not much different in size from a planetary fortress. The Thunderblade aliens hollowed out an asteroid with a diameter of more than 50 kilometers, and built complex passages and a solid land-based orbital defense system on the outside and inside. This caused the attacking Kamigawa Tiendeo and Gulansi stars to spend a lot of time cleaning up these land-based orbital defense weapons. After they deployed their troops to invade the Institute, they found that many legions of reformed warriors had been stationed inside the Institute, which made the advancement speed of the two major civilizations unsatisfactory. But the more this happens, the more determined the two major civilizations are to obtain the technology to transform warriors. As time went by, the Thunder Blade's reformed warrior troops were ultimately like water without a source, and the defense line was gradually compressed into the core area. On the other side, they used information shielding and other means to hide themselves, and with the anxious battle situation ahead, the Thunder Blade Stars could not be distracted. Yinga and a group of 5 angels avoided the team of Thunder Blade transformation warriors they encountered along the way, and successfully sneaked in. Core Zone. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 446. Yinga, why do I feel something is not right? Logically speaking, the closer to the core area, the stronger the defense should be. But after all this time we haven't even seen a single defender. Yinga's eyes behind the silver-gray helmet visor kept scanning the surroundings, and the genetic engine in his mind also maintained a certain calculation frequency to detect abnormal substances around him. Faced with Ziluo's question in the communication channel, Yinga could only reply, I don't know very well, but don't relax and stay vigilant. Maybe the other party is watching us from the dark. Ziluo didn't speak when he heard this. Instead, he scanned the surroundings with his expectant eyes, as if he was expecting something to happen. Captain, I have stopped the defense system here. Behind it is the core computing area. We will complete the mission soon. When she came to a metal door several meters wide, Yinga said, and the angels surrounding her who were protecting her relaxed slightly after hearing the words. As the captain of this operation, the angel holding the gun nodded slightly and at the same time gave instructions. Be careful. The closer you get to completing the mission, the less likely you are to let down your guard. Ziluo and Yinga both nodded slightly to indicate that they understood. Then Yinga connected the control system of the closed metal door in front of them and opened the thick-looking metal door in front of them. With the friction of metal and the sound of mechanical braking, the metal door slowly rose upwards, and almost at the same time, deafening gunshots were heard, accompanied by bursts of frightened and desperate screams. Yinga and several other angels immediately entered combat mode and raised their weapons at the same time. Behind the door was an unusually wide room. In the center of the room was a shimmering metal tower, and in front of the tower was a blue female projection. But it was not this that caught the attention of all the angels first, but a tall and strong man wearing silver armor, holding a gun in one hand, and holding a helmet of an unknown armored warrior in the other. Did another mouse sneak in? A low, hoarse male voice came from the position of the man in the room with his back to the group of angels. Throwing aside the soldier of unknown civilization in his hand, the man turned around, and the face of a middle-aged man with strong facial lines and murderous eyes was imprinted in Yinga's mind. Almost at the same time, Yinga's mind compared this nearly 2-meter-tall man with some information about Thunderblade civilization personnel from the Angel database. Hika, the second-generation bearer of the power of Leo, the god-making project of the Thunderblade civilization, once killed a sun war god of Kamigawa and Tiandao and a second-generation Gulans in the conflicts of the 3 major civilizations in the previous period. Bearer of the Sky Bow. Without saying much, the Thunderblade star named Hika raised a short-barreled firearm in his right hand. The next moment, dozens of grey warheads with blue flames at their tails were fired at Yinga and the group of angels. However, those present were all angel warriors who had experienced hundreds of battles. When Hika pointed his gun at them, the thought in his mind the opponent's shooting trajectory was calculated. Like an oracle, Yinga and her companions spread out in all directions. Then Yinga and the team leader immediately launched harassing suppression shots at Hika. Ziluo and another angel who was good at melee combat were on the left and right sides. At the same time, rushed towards Hika. Hika's expression did not change due to the empty gun, and he still looked indifferent, but his eyes kept looking back and forth at the 2 enemies rushing towards him. Hika turned slightly sideways to avoid a scorching red beam of light, and his eyes immediately fell on the gun-wielding angel a little further away. But at this moment, a shower of scattered particle beams suddenly hit, forcing Hika to raise his left arm to cover his face. He raised his right hand holding the gun and aimed it in the direction where Yinga might be, and fired blindly. Yinga, who kept shooting on the move, only avoided the first few bullets, and then was hit by a chain of light. I saw several sparks exploding in the chest and abdomen of Yinga's armor. The huge kinetic energy knocked Yinga's body unstable and slid to the ground for a distance. However, the gun in Hika's hand was also knocked away by a scorching red beam of light in the next second, and fell to the ground with bursts of green smoke. It was obvious that the melted gun body could no longer be used. Hika moved his smoky fingers and didn't care. As the bearer of Thunderblade Civilization's God-making project and the last line of defense of Attist Research Institute, energy attacks of this level could not cause effective damage to him at all. After Yinga and the Angel Captain harassed and fired, Zilugo and another Angel also rushed around Hika, with a tacit understanding to launch attacks from both sides at the same time. Hika leaned up slightly to avoid the sword slashed by 11 Lugo, then moved his steps and narrowly avoided the straight knife in the hand of another Angel. Then he raised his hand and reached forward, accurately grasped Yinga's forearm, turned around and threw it back like a piece of clothing, hitting the knife-wielding Angel. There was a huge metal collision, and Yinga, who was getting up from the ground, saw the bodies of Zilugo and another companion embedded in the metal wall. Hika did not pursue them immediately, but instead frowned slightly, because these 5 enemies were different from the rats that sneaked in before. Judging from their movements and strength, they were obviously high-level super warriors. Thinking of this, Hika's thoughts moved, and the gene engine located in the dark plane began to start. It originally looked like there were some bloated armors, and a faint blue light was faintly revealed in some gaps. Leo's power has been activated, the current strength is 50%, and the dark energy conversion rate is good. A voice that only Hika could hear sounded. At this time, the intelligent management and control system attached to the gene engine was mainly intended to assist the bearer in exerting and recognizing his own power. No matter who you are, you shouldn't be here. The standard Kamigawa language echoed in this hall, and combined with Hika's appearance at the moment, an inexplicable pressure appeared in the hearts of the angels. Yinga and the other angels didn't reply, but they were very active in the team's dark communication channel. The angel is swearing, is this Thunderblade star sick? There is a war god hiding in this shabby research institute. Zilugo's words were unanimously recognized by the rest of the angel team. 11 Lugo, now is not the time to complain about this. Everyone must be careful. The other party probably just regarded us as ordinary intruders. We were lucky that there was no attrition. But that's not necessarily the case next. The other party is a battle god at the same level as the Queen and Sister Ran. I'm afraid we will all be blamed for any mistake. Hearing this, Yinga immediately agreed, the captain is right. You must be extremely careful next time, especially you, Zilugo. Don't go one-on-one with the opponent. You are no match for him. Although Zilugo really wanted to have a fight with Hika, he also knew that now was not the time to show off, so he nodded in understanding. Dear book friends, I am really sorry. I have been working overtime until 9:30 recently, and I am busy with work during the day, so the updates are really not ideal. However, the author will still update the code when he has time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 447. Before Yinga and several angels could finish their discussion, the sound of heavy footsteps almost connected in one piece reached their ears, and Hika, not far away, was seen rushing over at a speed that was extremely inconsistent with his body shape. Upon seeing this, the angel captain, who was standing a little further away with a gun, immediately raised his gun and started shooting. At the same time, he gave orders to Yinga, Zilugo and other angels. Disperse and prepare for the god-killing battle. Hearing this, Yinga and Zilugo were refreshed, but there were some things that needed to be prepared before that. Zilugo looked at the war blade in her hand. In order to prevent her identity as an angel from being exposed, she had not activated the weapon engine of the war blade in her hand. But now, the captain has issued an order to prepare for the god-killing operation, so there is no need to continue. Covered up. In the blink of an eye, several pieces of certification information flashed in Zilugo's mind, followed closely by the internal energy circuit distribution of the war blade and some preset functions and energy output modes. In the short time that Zilugo certified and started the sword engine in his hand, Hika was already fighting with the angel who used a straight knife. The sound of heavy metal impact echoed in the room. Hika used his fist to deflect the blade that was slashing at him. At the same time, he quickly stepped forward and deceived the enemy's attack blind spot. The subsequent result was obvious. A fist flashing with blue energy hit the angel's chin hard. Before her body could hit the roof of the cabin above, Hika grabbed her ankle and gave her a heavy blow forward. Fall. Boom. It was visible to the naked eye that the metal floor in front of Hika had sunk, and the feeling of the female angel who was thrown was hard to describe. The subtle blue energy that cannot be seen by the naked eye penetrates the armor and travels on the surface of her body, violently destroying her super genes and interfering with her ability to move. This is the special energy driving technology at the core of Thunder Blade Star's artificial god project Leo Power. It uses dark energy to convert a highly destructive and unstable energy, which can destroy and interfere with the enemy's physical activities to the greatest extent. Born to fight and kill. The angel warrior lying on the sunken metal floor could only watch as Hika raised her big foot, aimed it at her head and stepped on it. All she could do now was to use the genetic engine to dispel the foreign energy at the maximum speed. Interference with oneself. But after hearing a dull impact, the female angel on the ground felt her ears tremble, and Hika's big foot shifted a little and stepped into the floor next to her face. Thermal blade. Feeling the rising temperature in the palm holding Zilugo's war blade, Hika couldn't help but let out a surprised sound. Zilugo was even more surprised than Hika at this moment, because her attack was blocked by the enemy with one hand. During the short period of time when Hika was surprised, the angel on the ground finally got rid of the energy interference from Hika's attack just now. He turned over, raised his weapon and stabbed Hika in the lower ribs. But just as she was doing this, Hika kicked her out almost at the same time and crashed into a warehouse wall. Released his grip on the thermal blade, Hika stepped back slightly to avoid 11 Lugo's slashing blade, and this was just the beginning of 11 Lugo's attack. I saw the red-hot blade cutting through lines of fire in the air, as if cutting the space into countless pieces, but it couldn't touch Hika who was so close. This made Zilugo's expression very solemn. Just when Zilugo increased his slashing speed again and planned to rely on speed to win, Hika, who had been dodging, bowed his right arm and 4 sticks glowing with blue energy popped out from the wrist guard on the back of his fist. The sharp spikes cleverly passed through the shadow of 11 Lugo's slashing sword and pierced into her abdomen. Zilugo's slashing movement paused, and as Hika pushed forward hard, Zilugo slid backwards. She heard a clang, the weapon fell to the ground, and she herself half knelt on the ground weakly. With her belly there were 3 parallel holes in the armor that were as big as a baby's forearm, and traces of blood flowed out from the wounds that shone with blue arc light. As Hika exerted his strength as a war god, neither Zilugo, who was good at melee combat, nor Yinga, who was harassing and shooting from a distance, could no longer pose any threat to him. The energy that jumped like lightning could no longer pose any threat to him. Can violently destroy any energy attack that comes close. As for close combat, Zilugo is the best example. With differences in physical fitness, energy output, etc., unless there are special means, it will be difficult to win. The scorching red ray was scattered by Hika with a punch, but as time passed, he gradually became tired of the wandering fighting method of Yinga and his group of angels. Yinga and her group of angels did not choose to fight head-on with Hika. As long as a companion was seriously injured, the remaining angels would attack with all their strength, delaying Hika's pace and allowing their companions' bodies to have time to heal themselves. In addition, the gap between the two sides is not so large that it is irreparable, which makes it possible to carry out the god-killing war. However, as the war god of the Thunder Blade civilization, Hika is not a stupid person. And as the battle progressed, Hika also had some guesses about the identities of the 5 enemies who invaded the core area of the Institute. Because there are very few civilizations in the entire known universe that have the technology to create high-level super warriors. The first among them is the Angel civilization, followed by the Gulans and the Kamigawa Tiendeo people who are hostile to Thunderblade, but there are also excluding some unknown civilizations that secretly obtain this technology. After fighting for several minutes, Hika suddenly broke away from the encirclement of Yinga and his group of angels and retreated to the side of the hall that was closer to the inside. Yinga and other angels on the other side did not choose to pursue them. In such a small situation where the ability to fly and the use of the flaming sword cannot be exposed, it was too reluctant to fight a war god after all. Several angels were all injured. Color. Hika on the other side glanced at the humanoid projection beside him and said in a deep voice, "Open the side door and ask the Legion inside to send several combat teams to support." After saying this, Hika once again focused his attention on Yinga and the other angels, and said loudly without waiting for the humanoid projection to answer, "If I guess your target is correct, it should be the same as those bastards like Kamigawa Tiendeo. They are all transformed warrior data stored in the Research Institute, right? But I won't give you a chance. As long as I'm still here, you will never be able to obtain information about this technology." No one responded to Hika's words. Yinga and the other angels were as if they were mute, but their hands holding the weapons tightened, and they urgently discussed countermeasures in the secret communication. "What should we do? We can't use the flaming sword. Our weapons can't resist his attacks at all. If this continues, sooner or later we will be killed by him." The female shield-bearing angel who suffered the most damage in the team gritted her teeth and said, "The weapons in our hands are no worse than the flaming sword, it's just that we don't have the corresponding energy application and import formula." As the captain, Angel obviously knew more than the team members and explained aloud. When Yinga heard this, her heart moved, and she spoke aloud, "Then can the energy-driven formula of the flaming sword be applied to these weapons?" As the captain, Angel's eyes lit up and he felt that this method was feasible. "Well Yinga, you try it first. Next we will find a way to hold him back." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 448. Yinga immediately stepped back and immediately began to modify the energy-driven technology that was originally unique to the flaming sword. Of course, the premise of this modification was that the weapons in their hands were originally made by the technical means of the angel civilization, and were similar to the flaming sword. Great similarity. What Yinga needs to do is change the energy-driven route of the flame bombing into a layout pattern that matches the energy circuits in the weapons in their hands today. When Hika saw several invading enemies rushing forward again, he touched the armor on his waist with his palm, and the handle of a thicker dagger popped out and he pulled it out. Although it looks like a dagger, the blade is nearly 1 meter long. However, Hika is quite tall and wears heavy gray armor, so it feels like a dagger. Ziluo, who had recovered from her injuries, rushed forward again, but this time she did not fight alone but cooperated with another companion. Hika stared at the two slashing blades, one wide and one narrow. A cruel smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He turned the wrist holding the dagger, and the blue energy flickered on the blade of the sword, and then greeted him. "Go up." The weapons used by both sides were obviously made of metal, but the sound of the collision was an ear-splitting explosion. The squeezed air blew away the debris on the ground, revealing an alloy floor with a metallic texture. One light, one heavy, one fast, one slow, with the alternating attacks of Ziluo and his companions, and the long-range shooting support of the female angel captain in the distance, Hika kept retreating to gain space to dodge. The dagger flashing with violent blue energy collided with the straight knife with a red edge in mid-air. The scorching high temperature and energy had a special reaction, and a flash of white light flashed out. The next moment, with the explosion that spread, the straight knife was bounced away. The edge of the dagger in Hika's hand was slightly adjusted, and then it was drawn forward. But the next moment, Hika suddenly stopped moving, and took a step back nimbly, avoiding the sword in Zilugo's hand that was slashing towards the ground. However, the ultra-high temperature blade still remained on Hika's abdomen. There was a slight burn mark. Before Hika could make another move, a scorching red compression ray hit Hika's chest. The energy particles exploded and melted the alloy floor into small holes as thick as a finger. But Hika, who withstood a blow that could melt half of the modified warrior's body, only had weak traces of melting on his armor. After taking a look at the damage to the armor in the lower left corner of his vision, Hika felt confident and rushed towards Zilugo without saying a word. The female angel captain in the distance saw the muzzle of the gun move slightly. The high heat red energy converted from dark energy was infused into the muzzle by the energy circuit in the gun body, and was continuously compressed by the internal force field. Then a dazzling red ray as thick as an arm shot out, leaving a faint scorch mark in the air. But Hika had already been prepared for this. Although he was not a high-end technical talent, as a god of war, his brain had terrifying computing power. When the female angel captain aimed at him, he calculated the shooting trajectory. At this moment, without the interference of 11 Lugo and other female angels, he just paused and dodged the attack during the charge, causing the alloy wall on the other side to suffer and a big hole was blown out. The dagger glowing with violent blue energy collided with the straight knife in mid-air again, suppressing the female angel holding the knife as expected. However, 11 Lugo followed closely and immediately wiped out Hika's advantage. However, Hika did not dodge this time. He resisted 11 Lugo's blow and then went straight over 11 Lugo. He raised his arm and hit him with an elbow on the back of his neck. There was a loud bang, and Zilugo was knocked to the ground. This sudden change immediately caused a flaw in the angel's alternating tactics. When the female angel with the knife saw this, she struck with a sharp thrust. Based on the speed and reaction shown by Hika before, this blow was a sure hit in the calculation of the female angel. Hika, who had experienced many battles, naturally knew this, but he never thought about hiding. The red-edged straight knife melted through the heavy armor worn by Hika and penetrated into his body. At the same time, the dagger in Hika's hand also penetrated diagonally upward from the angel's abdomen, and the silver on his body surface, the gray armor, hindered him for a moment and was torn apart by the violent energy of the dagger. The muscles on Hika's face twitched. This was painful. No one would feel better if there was a foreign body with tens of thousands of degrees in their chest. He pushed away the female angel who seemed to be attached to him, then turned around and hid behind the female angel. This made the female angel captain in the distance grit her teeth and had to stop shooting. Then her eyes widened behind her goggles and she said two words angrily. Mean. While Hika hid behind the female angel, she also used her as a shield to resist 11 Lugo's slashing blade. Finally, in front of the female angel captain and 11 Lugo, he gave the female angel a heart-warming blow from behind again. Sword. The sword-wielding angel, who was originally stabbed into the body by a sword and became very weak due to Leo's energy constantly destroying the super genes in his body, was struck like this again. He lost his ability to fight on the spot and let go of the weapon and fell to the ground. Hika then pushed away the enemy's body in front of her and looked at the other angel warriors present. As for why she did not completely cut off the life of the enemy at her feet, it was because it was not necessary. From the feeling just now, Hika discovered that the bodies of these enemies wearing unknown style armor were unexpectedly tough, and they were almost catching up with him. For an enemy of this level, it is not difficult to make it lose its combat effectiveness, but it will take a lot of effort to kill it completely. The situation at the scene obviously did not leave Hika time to kill the enemies at his feet. Rather than expending energy to kill an enemy who had lost their combat effectiveness, it was better to knock down the rest. Just when the two parties were about to fight again, a burst of dense and heavy footsteps sounded, and a smile appeared on Hika's face. "You have no way to escape." After Hika finished speaking, he no longer cared about consumption. His blue arc light flashed all over his body. The intensity of Leo's power increased from 50% to 100%. The transformation and consumption of dark energy could no longer maintain a balance, but in exchange for this the energy output is several times stronger than before. Almost at the same time that Hika transformed into the full power of the Thunderblade civilization god-making project Leo's power, groups of transformed warriors generally over 2 meters in height rushed out of the open doors on both sides of the hall. For a time, countless dark guns were pointed at Zillow and other angels. The situation at this moment was extremely unfavorable to Yinga and other angels. If he could use the flaming sword, Zillow would have blown everything here to pieces. How could he have fallen to this level? Even one of his companions was seriously injured.